Hi there and welcome back. Today is our fifth lesson of six from the book What Are You by Amelia Shanklin, Your Equipment and Your Resources. So I was wondering if you're kind of picking up on this whole idea that if you are made in the image and likeness of God, which we are, and your thoughts create your reality, then you're beginning to realize that the outer form, our outer expression, physically and in possessions or attributes, are all coming from our thinking. Thinking and mind are incredibly strong forces within us. They are the engine of us. And now, in this chapter, there are some wonderful things that she ties so much of what we've been listening to and reading and discussing in our groups of how we create what it is we think. And so she's given us some tools in these two chapters with which for us to really capitalize on what it is we want to create. She shares with us that there are three things that we have absolutely control over. And then right at the end of one of her discussions, she adds two more to it. And she just slips it in real subtly. Well, I don't want to be subtle about it. I want to bring it up. And these three items that she mentions is you have a brain, use it, right? How many of us have been told that? You have a body, train it to serve you, not to rule you. And you have an environment, fill it with God. Wow, those three things. And then she goes on to tell us that there are two more elements that help us in this understanding, and they are love and confidence. Confidence that these items that you must be sure to include with the rest of your equipment. So she's telling us that we have the equipment with which to manifest whatever our God given talents might be, whatever we're guided to do, whatever inspiration inspires us, when we are allowing ourselves to be still enough to listen to that still small voice, which is God. You can call it any manner of names that you want: intuition, spirit, guidance, whatever. But there's this entity within us which we choose to call God, not in a he, she format, but just the impersonalness of God, which within this encompasses all we will ever need. Wow. So you see, we have the tools with which to formulate anything it is we want. But we've been so programmed with the fictitious news about our bodies, about our minds, about our ability to create, that we've neglected the one resource of all, which is our mind, which can be tapped into the mind of God anytime we want. Anytime we want. So you have a mind, use it. You have a brain, use it. Everything you need is within there. And this is Super Bowl weekend coming up. And, she talks about having natural talents. Well, she also says there is no such thing as a natural talent. I think of Billy Joel, who's a composer and phenomenal musician and a pianist. Well, he was first trained in classical music, and then he reverted that skill over to a rock and roll era, shall we call it. But what's most importantly is that you will if you have a conversation with him, you'll find that he didn't have a lot of the things that you and I might have had as children. I don't think he played hide and seek. I don't think he played kick the can. I don't think he stayed after school for extracurricular activities. He went home and he practiced and he practiced and he practiced. He wasn't born ready to play classical music. He had to develop it. He had to train his mind to function with that. So he created the equipment, i.e., the practice and the wherefore, to become skillful in that set, you see. And so Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes are our two quarterbacks for this weekend's Super Bowl. And I'm a big football fan. So they don't have natural talent. They practiced and practiced. I mean, for God's sake, Tom Brady, talk about using his body, the number two essence. He has been training his body to only take in what is absolutely essential to his skill. The lack of fat, the lack of sugars and um, enriched flours and those kinds of things that in his mind create obstacles to him being the optimum performer that he is. My God, he's 40 years old. He's about to play in a Super Bowl. Now, Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, is a young man, a very young man, but he has been practicing his trade, and his mindset is winning. There's nothing else that enters his brain. He doesn't hang around with people who tell him no. Oh, what are you doing that for, Patrick? Oh, come on, you can do. No. He eliminates that from his life, and so does Tom Brady. They focus on their purpose and they stay and stick to it. Essential, essential for accomplishing what it is that they desire to achieve. We've all been blessed with the exact same ability, not so much to throw a football 40 yards and hit that receiver and he goes in for 60. I'm talking about the ability to do what brings us the most satisfaction. We have to manage it. We have to perfect it. We have to become skilled at it. We have to be able to work with what our desires have. We have to find our gifts. Now, I know that we can sometimes talk ourselves out of these gifts because of all the fictitious news about our bodies. Oh, when you're this age, that happens. When you're that age, this happens. BS. BS, don't fall for that fake news. You see, they don't. Billy Joel never did. So many other people that have created substantial things. There are no accidents in the world. They've worked at it. They've perfected their trade. You know, I'm a speaker. I have to perfect my speaking ability. I have to be able to grab an audience and take them where I want to go. That didn't happen overnight. I practice, I look at my material, I embody the material, I take ownership of it, and then I'm able to exude what it is I'm trying to achieve through my ability to speak. I'm not an expert, but I like where I'm going with it. I like my ability to be able to impact your life, to have a closer relationship with God. But I'm not sitting around doing nothing about it. I'm constantly working at it, looking at it, refining it. What else can I do to perfect my trade, whatever that is? And I follow those guidance. Before every talk, I say, let my words be the words that the ears want to hear. I want you to get something from it, you know. So we have this third element. So the first is your brain, the second one is your body, and the third one is your environment. Your environment. You see, we can practice a trade. We can practice something that brings us joy. We can practice it and perfect it. During this pandemic, we've been in guarded condition for almost a year now, and Susan and I are really perfecting our ability to cook. We eat like queens. We just perfect our recipes, and it's not just 10 recipes. We've got a conglomerate of gifts, different forms of Chinese, Japanese. My God, steak, or using a wok, or any of the bread maker, the tortilla press. We're using the equipment. Now, we've had to acquire the equipment because this trade most times involves having the right equipment. Just as an electrician, he acquires the right equipment and he's able to use it to his advantage. Many times when I'm busy doing something around the house that might need a minor tweak or that, I find if I don't have the right tool, it's hard to do the job. So I have to use my brain and think about what can I use because I don't have that particular piece of equipment. What can I use to make this work? And we go into that. It's kind of like rebooting your computer. When it doesn't work right, reboot, see what happens, right? Because sometimes we need that kickstart. So when we use our environment is a representation of what's in our minds. You say we can have a gift and we can nurture our body with that gift. But if we don't present that gift to the world, whatever that is, then we've negated. You need all three. What our thinking is about that gift. You see, gift is anything you set your mind to do. And of course, we hope it's a positive gift. Whether your gift is just to be kind and gentle with everybody you meet, what a beautiful contribution you've made to your world, because your world will encompass that. Your world will change based on your thinking. You see, this law of mind action is not an accident. It's not flippant. It's trained. It's instilled in us. It's part of who we are when we tap our resource into God. You see, we've been told no so many times, whether it's ourselves telling us that or we're getting feedback from people that tell us. I remember that a wise man long, long time ago told me, never tell your dreams to the skeptic. And it made sense to me. They're going to knock it down. They're going to decide that this isn't for you. You can't do that. Look at you. You're not capable of that. That's not true. It's not true about you. I'm so impressed with so many people in our congregation who just don't put up with that no factor. God doesn't say no. You know, Einstein, how many times did he get failure? But it wasn't failure. He was perfecting it. You see, very different language in our minds. He never stopped wanting to figure it out, but he didn't let his environment tell him no. Oh my God, you failed 100 times. Stop it. Go do something else. He was clear. He continually used his brain to develop it, to develop it, to develop it. No matter what was going on, he knew it was possible. You see, because we're standing on the shoulders of the people before us, aren't we? You know, they've perfected something. And then we look at that gift, we look at that item or that idea and go, oh, what if it also did this? What a cool idea. What a cool idea. We are constantly being flooded with ideas and notions that help us develop something fantastic, you know, because if you don't develop it, somebody else will. And you got to be okay with that. You know, clap your hands and the light goes on. How many of us thought of that? But that person that went ahead and did it is what matters. Because we have to make use of the divine ideas we get. We have to be able to put them into practice. And that's why when we say things like, I don't feel good, I'm not really myself, you can't ignore that. There's something within you that's calling you for an attention. You have to resolve it. You have to go into, what can I do to not have that happen? What can I do to have this happen instead? And then do that. Do that. And we can't let our minds talk ourselves out of it. You see, because when you have love behind it and a confidence that it's going to happen, nobody's going to get in your way. You push through it. You push through it. You can do this. You know, and I've shared with you, some of you, that I was put back in the kindergarten and I was also put back in the third grade. My parents had kind of settled in that she may not have it all together. There may be an issue here for her. Now, they never stopped me. They never stopped me from pursuing whatever it is I just chose to do in my education. Thank you. You know, but all they can do is let me be me. What a beautiful gift it was. Because now I have my master, something I never thought I could have ever done. but I wasn't surrounded with negative people. They didn't demean me. They didn't make fun of me. There wasn't any comments about how I might not be able to do this. None of that happened. So I just kept plugging away, going where it brought me joy. If you are not in a state of joy, no matter what your physical condition is, no matter what your financial condition is, none of that matters because you rule your mind. You decide what it is you have or have not in your life. That's why closet cleanouts are so important. To clean out the clutter, to organize your life so that the flow of ideas is not impeded by obstacles that we've put there. We put them there. So we need to remove them. We need them to be in a state of connectedness with you. If you're doing something that doesn't bring you joy, stop. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. She also talks about, surrendering is what I call. She calls it being willing to do the guidance of God. I am open and receptive to the will of God. Let's repeat that. I am open and receptive to the will of God. Wow, it so embodies our openness to following the guidance of God because we have our brain, let's use it. We have our bodies, let's nurture it. We have our environment, let's give our environment what it needs to function fully with love and confidence that all the tools you will ever need, you already have. You're simply adapting them to a way that you can make use of them. You have the equipment and the resources to do this. So your question and your discussion question for this week is, what are you willing to let go of that's an impediment to you being happy? And what can you replace it with that furthers your ability to be fully engaged with your universe, with your brain, with your body, with your equipment, with your environment? What are you willing to let go of that no longer serves you? You see, if you've had a successful career or you've been good at one thing and it no longer brings you joy, this is your window to create something else. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's herbs. Maybe it's something wonderful with children or the forest. Whatever brings you joy, I highly recommend that you do more of it. And you continue to be willing to do what may be uncomfortable for you. Be willing to take ownership of your brain, your body, and your equipment and your environment. What are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to receive more of so that you can be a more productive, a happier, with a relationship with God that is solid, with no hesitations? Godspeed, and we'll see you next time.